Soiled it! Soiled it! Soiled it!
What's happening, everyone? The Last of Us Season 2 has finally begun, and it's off to a bit of a weird start for me. Now, that doesn't mean that I think the season is going to be terrible, but I do feel strange about some of the decisions that they made going forward with this iteration of the story. The first of which being the casting for the show. Now, for the most part, I believe that the casting in The Last of Us is spot on, with the exception of 3 specific characters that are extremely important to the story. Those characters being Ellie, Dina, and Abby. Now, if you're someone who has only watched the show and never played the games, you might be curious right now as well, what's wrong with Ellie? Bella Ramsey played Ellie in the first season of The Last of Us, so why wouldn't she continue playing her in the second season? And to that, you're right, I get that, but you don't know exactly how Ellie changes between the first and second game. Ellie in the first game of The Last of Us is 14 years old, and in the second game, she's 19. I don't know if you've seen a teenager go through puberty. They do not come out of it looking the same way as they did before puberty. And that's exactly the problem with Bella Ramsey still playing Ellie. Bella was cast as the 14-year-old Ellie in the first season of the show, and despite being older than Ellie is in The Last of Us Part 2 video game, she still looks younger than Ellie. She still looks like the 14-year-old version of her. For context sake, this is Ellie in The Last of Us game, the first one. This is Ellie in Part 2 of the game. This is Bella in Season 1 of The Last of Us, and this is Bella in Season 2. Yes, they gave her the new clothes, they gave her the tattoo, and they changed her hairstyle, but Bella, as an individual, still looks the same way as she did in the first season of The Last of Us, and in that first season, she was the 14-year-old Ellie. So I don't particularly care for the fact that we're supposed to buy into the fact that Ellie is now 5 years older. She's been through a lot. Her personality's changed. When I look at her and I'm just like, you just look like you got a haircut and it's been like a couple days after the events of the first season. It's really off-putting. And because of that, they cast her love interest, Dina, to be an actress who resembles the same age framework that Bella has the appearance for. And knowing what goes on with Dina's story throughout the game, it feels really weird. Because this guy right here from the show, Jesse, they briefly mention it in this episode. The two of them were in a sexually active relationship. Sure, they're broken up now, but like, they were banging. And Dina ends up being pregnant unknowingly in the game and has his baby throughout the course of the story. Looking at these two next to each other and thinking they were in that intimate of a relationship, it makes me feel like he's the dude that's in college that still hangs out at his old high school to hook up with the girls there because he can't move on from his high school days. In other words, a predator. And I don't want to feel that way about Jesse because I like the character of Jesse. He was really cool when he was in the game. So I'm not a fan of feeling this way just because these actors just look that drastically separate in age from one another. I just feel like this whole casting situation here was just really weird with these two characters, and it doesn't help that Ellie and Dina in this season, these two actresses playing them don't have the same level of romantic chemistry that Ellie and Dina had in the video game, because these are the exact same scenes, but they feel totally different from one another.
How bad do I smell?
Like a hot pile of garbage.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, gross.
Okay, I have a very serious question for you. How bad do I smell?
Like a hot pile of garbage.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
How about that?
gross.
You love it.
Every guy in this room is staring at you right now.
Maybe they're staring at you.
They're not.
Maybe they're jealous of you.
No reason to be. I'm not a threat.
Oh, Ellie. I think they should be terrified of you.
Every guy in this room is staring at you right now.
Maybe they're jealous of you.
I'm just a girl, not a threat.
Oh, Ellie. I think they should be terrified of you.
If the scene from the show didn't get copyright striked, hopefully you saw what I was talking about and you see what I mean by it feeling weird. And now onto the last character, being Abby, who I don't have the same issue with as I do with Ellie and Dina. My issue with Abby is that she's not big enough. Like, Abby in the game is a fucking unit. Abby literally boxes infected with her bare hands. I can't buy that this actress would do that. She just has too small of a framework. So, like, I can't buy that this woman is that brutal of a fighter. And I really don't understand why they did this, because there are women out there that have a same muscular physique to Abby because they just be hitting the gym. They either be practicing fighting, they just be working out continuously, or they do a mix of multiple different things, but they have that build. And there are women like that who are trying to break their way into the acting field. So why wouldn't you cast someone like that to be Abby? Especially because Abby and Ellie are supposed to have a direct parallel in their physical capabilities. Ellie is supposed to be tall, thin, and slender, and she uses her ingenuity and weaponry to make up for her lack in strength. Meanwhile, Abby is the exact opposite. She's not as clever as Ellie is, but she's got the brute force to make up for that lack of ingenuity. In other words, instead of being like, how can I outsmart my enemy? Why don't I just break their fucking face? That's Abby's philosophy. So I don't understand why you would take that away from the character, at least visually. I imagine the character is still going to have that same brutality and mentality with them in the writing. At least I'm hoping she still does. But, you know, it just feels weird that you would do that when you specifically know how it is. And honestly, it makes me afraid that the reason they did it is because of how upset people complained about Abby's character design when she came out in the games. Because if you don't know, when The Last of Us Part 2 was coming out, there were tons of leaks, and a lot of people didn't like the way that Abby looked for incredibly stupid reasons. So I'm afraid that they cast an actress that just doesn't have the same build because they didn't want that same backlash a second time, which I really hope that's not the case, and this is just like a weird coincidence. That's all I have to say on that. But while we're on the subject of Abby, that brings me into my next point, and that's the fact that they moved Abby's origin from the middle of the game to the beginning of this story. At the beginning of this episode, we learn who Abby is and why she wants to kill Joel. And for me, that's a really big issue. Now, I have spoken to a couple of friends that like the show. One of them is someone who loved the first game, they loved the first season of the show, and they're enjoying the second season of the show, but they just haven't been able to play the second game. Another one of my friends is someone who loves the show, but he doesn't particularly care about the games all that much. And both of them were like, we don't really care about them moving the origin from the middle of the game to the start of the story. It's fine. It doesn't really ruin anything for us. And I completely get that. I imagine there's going to be tons of people that feel exactly the way my two friends do. But for me, it doesn't work just because of how it impacted me in the way the story was structured before. So if you don't know, the way The Last of Us 2 goes in the games is that Joel is killed by this complete and total stranger that you know nothing about. Abby shows up out of nowhere, murders Joel, and then she spares Ellie, which has you asking all of these questions. Who is this person? Why did she kill Joel? And why did she spare Ellie? Wouldn't you want to kill someone that's a witness that knows who you are, that knows that you killed Joel? And if their plan was to attack Jackson, why didn't they kill Ellie also? Why did they just kill Joel and then fuck off? What's going on here? And then, on top of that, it makes you feel the same rage that Ellie does in the desperation to find out what the hell happened. You want to kill Abby and learn everything that went on as to why Joel had to die. And that's exactly what the game wants you to feel like. It wants you to be angry. It wants you to be pissed. It wants you to be like, I don't care about this person. Fuck them. I'm going to learn what they did, slaughter every last one of them, and go about my peace. Until you learn why Abby did what she did in the middle of the game when they dropped that bombshell. When you learn that Abby is the daughter of Jerry! Yes, his name actually is Jerry! The head doctor from the Fireflies that Joel murdered in The Last of Us, it completely changes everything. For me, it made me sit back and recontextualize the entire story, because it made me realize that Ellie and Abby are just the same person. Both of them were sent down paths of revenge that destroyed their lives because both of their fathers made stupid, selfish decisions that if they just would have sat down and spoken to someone about, this whole situation would have been avoided. Joel, obviously everyone knows, he killed all of the Fireflies and took Ellie away from there, despite Ellie verbalizing that she wanted to sacrifice herself. Well, she doesn't do that in the first season, but it's something that will come up in the duration of them adapting The Last of Us Part 2 into the multiple seasons of the show. At some point, Ellie is going to bring up the fact that she was okay with sacrificing herself to save the world, to make the cure for the Fireflies, to help everyone out. And Joel took that decision away from her and lied to her about it, and that's what strains their relationship. In other words, Joel saving Ellie was an entirely selfish decision on his part. Now over to Abby's dad, Jerry! He decided, and the Fireflies decided, that they shouldn't tell Joel or Ellie that Ellie would have to die in order for them to get the cure. If they would have sat down and spoken with Joel and Ellie, Ellie would have told them that she wants to sacrifice herself for the cure. Joel wouldn't have been able to do anything at that point, because now it's Ellie telling him she wants to save the world. She wants to sacrifice herself for the greater good, instead of Joel crashing out and murdering all of the Fireflies. Now, I imagine Joel probably still would have had a visceral reaction to this if this hypothetical conversation happened, but if they would have just told them the situation, things could have played out entirely differently. But they didn't. They found out Ellie would have to die in order for them to get the cure, and they just went, fuck it. Keep her sedated. We're going to do the surgery right now. We're going to get the cure, and we're going to hold Joel hostage so he can't do anything. And that resulted in Joel killing everyone, setting Abby down her path of revenge. Both of these women had people wrong them and murder their fathers because of their own father's stupid decisions, and it ruined their lives for it because they became consumed by revenge. That hit me so hard when I was playing the game as it happened in the middle of it, and I just sat there thinking to myself, wow, did I do too much as Ellie? Like, everything I've done seems really messed up now, given that me and Abby are the same exact character. Because at that point, when this reveal happens, you basically murdered all of Abby's friends and destroyed like an entire city's military population. So you've done an excessive amount of death, damage, and destruction by this point in the story. So it just makes you really think about what the hell you've already done and what you're going to do in the future. And I really like that because it just changed everything for me playing the game. And it's something that I really feel in a game where they just rework everything that I've done and everything I'm going to do forward by the time I get to the middle of the installment. But now that Abby's story has moved to the beginning of the story, I feel like a lot of people aren't going to really care that she's Jerry's daughter. They're just going to be like, yeah, okay, I know who she is and why she did what she did, but I don't care. I just want her dead because she killed Joel, and I like Joel, and I don't think those Firefly people were right because they tried to kill Ellie without saying anything. I feel like a lot of people are just not going to care, and they're just going to want this to be a bargain bin standard revenge story, which is not what The Last of Us Part 2 is. It's a story about how revenge is stupid and bad, and I feel like this bombshell reveal of Abby's origin in the middle of the story really helped to further that agenda. But like I said, I've spoken to a couple of people who are like, yeah, no, this doesn't really change anything. I think it's still going to be effective. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just overthinking it because I'm one of the few people in the world that actually genuinely loves the story of The Last of Us Part 2. And I'm just overthinking it because I'm just passionate about what I'm talking about here. But we'll see as time goes on, as the season progresses, and how they handle adapting everything else into the future. And the last thing that I have to talk about is Joel himself. So they're giving Joel more to do in this season before he dies as opposed to in the game. Because in the game, we play as Ellie and see everything from Ellie's perspective, and Joel dies very early on. And this resulted in people being extremely upset because it's like, wow, you took away Joel from us, this beloved character that we spent all of this time trying to help survive and get a happy ending at the first game right at the start. And I'm someone who always believed that if they would have just had The Last of Us be in more chronological order, it would have fixed this issue, because essentially the way it happens is that Joel dies at the beginning, and then in between each chapter, we get a flashback to Ellie when she was still 14, showing the slow deterioration between her and Joel's relationship that brings it to the point that it is at the start of the story when she's 19 years old. And I feel like that would have just been better as like an intro to the game, to show you all the new controls and everything and give you that background of the story to see how their relationship completely fell apart, and then bring it into Joel dying after the fact as like the main first chapter of the game. I think that would have worked a lot better, and it would have alleviated people's issues of Joel dying way too quickly. But that's not the world that we live in, and I was hoping they were going to do that with this show, and they seem to be doing that, but like in a different way that I wasn't expecting. We've now got a new storyline for Joel where he's seeing a therapist named Gail, played by Catherine O'Hara, and they're using this to verbalize Joel's emotions about Ellie. And I've seen a lot of people really love this therapy session, and I didn't truly love it up until the very end of the therapy session, because for me, I figured out Joel's emotions just playing the game, just seeing his facial reactions and his interactions with Ellie, that something was wrong, and then realizing that it's because he lied to her, and that breach of trust is why the two of them don't get along anymore. I just picked up those context clues as I was playing the game. In the show, they just basically have him say that everything is bad, and although he's not saying that, you know, it's because he lied to her, you kind of get the feeling of that, and it was just kind of like, okay, why did we need to just have him verbalize his emotions? Couldn't we have just seen that things are messed up between him and Ellie up until this point? And the final part of the therapy session that I ended up truly loving was the moment where Joel, ironically enough, just stopped talking. The moment where Catherine O'Hara, I don't know why I call her by her actress's name, the moment when Gail presses Joel about what's really going on between him and Ellie, because he's clearly leaving out a major point that caused them to fall apart in their relationship in these therapy sessions. And you see Joel just start to reflect on the fact that he never told Ellie about the Fireflies, that the fact that he lied and broke her trust is the reason why they can't move past this in their relationship, why they can't rebuild things. And you see him really feel that for a second before he doubles down on his old emotions, and he's just like,
I saved her.
I thought that was beautiful. I thought that was perfect. I absolutely loved that. Wordless storytelling just hits so different, dude. And that is what I truly loved about it. But everything leading up to that point, I was just kind of sitting there like, I mean, okay, whatever. And then when Gail brought up the fact that Joel killed her husband, Eugene, I literally paused it and went, who? Because I don't know who the fuck Eugene is. I was so confused, and apparently this is a new storyline, the same way that Gail is a new character in the season, so I'm just gonna have to find out who Eugene is in the future, and okay, yeah, we'll see where this goes as time goes on, but yeah, it was just really jarring at the moment. But yeah, that's all I have to say about this premiere episode of The Last of Us. I don't know if I'm going to be doing a video like this for every single episode. It just so happened that this first episode left me with a lot to say, so I just needed to get it off my chest. But let me know how you all thought of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1. I'm curious to see how everyone really is feeling about it. If you're someone who's played the games, is watching the show, and you wanted to see them readapt the story in a better light because you had issues with it. If you're someone who's never played the games, you've only watched the show, in which case, I know I put the spoiler warning at the beginning, but I'm sorry for telling you a lot of the story that happens in the game that's going to happen in the season if you stuck around to the end of the video, but I appreciate the view. Thank you very much. Yeah, so all the varying different people that are watching The Last of Us, between newcomers, people in the middle ground, and so on and so forth, just let me know what your thoughts were of this first episode, and if you agree, disagree, or whatever with my opinion on everything that I had to say. And without further ado, I'm the Innocent Villain. Remember, folks, you're innocent until proven villainous, and I will catch y'all next time. Peace.